This is probably not what you want to talk about, as most leaders don't want to talk about it, but it is very necessary. My name is Todd Hendricks, and I'm the owner of People First Coaching and Consulting, where I help leaders maximize their leadership skills and make them better leaders for themselves, maybe their families, and for sure, their direct reports and their employees. So today I want to talk about presents, and I don't mean Christmas presents or birthday presents. What I mean is your physical, mental, and emotional presence with your staff, your direct reports, and your management. So where's this coming from? Well, over the past few months, I've been in contact with 3 different businesses and organizations where they have been struggling with leadership. And they're struggling with leadership because the leaders are not present. They're not around. Let's go through them kind of in a one-by-one, case-by-case basis. So the first one is a small brick and mortar store. And the owner is doing a fantastic job when the owner is there. And that's the key. When the owner is there, everything goes well. And then sometimes the owner, goes off and does some work on some other ventures and projects and businesses that they have going. And then the staff at the store kind of just start to falter and they don't do everything they're supposed to do. Kind of that old adage of when the cat's away, the mice will play. Now, I'm not implying or insinuating that the employees are not doing a good job or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there just isn't the urgency when the owner is gone as opposed to when the owner is there. So we've talked about this a bunch of times, the owner and I've said, when you are there, everybody's on their job, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're doing a fantastic job because you're there. Just your presence helps. And the conversation is kind of like, well, but Todd, it shouldn't matter. Yup, it shouldn't. But it does. And I've used this before, and it's kind of a harsh way to say it, but like, nobody loves your kids as much as you do. And it's the same thing with businesses and organizations. If you're in charge of them, you run them, or you lead them. Nobody's going to love your business as much as you do, because for them, it's just a job. For you, it's your passion. It's how you feed your family. It is so much more than it is to what they think it is. So keep that in mind. The other organization that I'm thinking about is very forward thinking. They are really moving, growing, and trying to do a great job at building the company. Well, the owner was gone on vacation, and the 2 that were left in charge were doing a fantastic job with day-to-day operations. Absolutely fantastic. 100%, 110%. But they did not advance the projects that were going to build the company and make the company bigger, better, and more profitable. So the owner comes back and was like, hey, you did a great job with the day-to-day operations. What about, these projects that we were working on? Oh, well, we didn't get to those because we were taking care of the day-to-day operations. Somebody quit 3 days after you went on vacation, and we had to handle this, and then we had to hire somebody, and then we had to distribute the workload from the person who quit, and all legitimate things, all very legitimate things. But things didn't go as smoothly as when the owner was there, and that makes sense. And then the third one that I'm thinking about is an organization, and when the leader of that organization is not around, really nothing happens, because not a lot of things do need to happen. It's a nonprofit, and so when the leader's not there driving the ship, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, well, we're still here, we'll still show up and do whatever, but whatever, And that's kind of the attitude of the volunteers who work there. So how do we get past that? Well, you can start by trying to hire somebody who you know is going to be a go-getter, who's really going to be driven to do a good job for you. Those are unicorns. And when I say unicorn, I mean rare and hard to find. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. So finding a unicorn is really, really hard, and sometimes only comes around once or twice in the lifespan of a business or an organization. So you have to keep that in mind. The other piece is how stretched are you as the leader and the owner of this business? If you have multiple businesses that you run, so you're doing all of them 30% of the day, and so you've got 10% of, you got 30, 30, 30, that's 90, so you got 10% of the day left for your family, you're only giving each business 30%. Would you be okay if your employees only gave 30% of the day? Probably not. So that's another thing that you need to think about. I want to relate a story to you that I read in this book about the Amish. And for some reason, I picked this book up at a bookstore, at a secondhand store, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. It just talked about, it's like each chapter was like 2 or 3 pages long, and it just talks about the day-to-day life of the Amish. And so I was interested and I read it. It was a quick read, and I was like, man, this is really good stuff. And part of Amish culture and community is each family unit, so like husband, wife, and children, never really have farms that are larger than about 80 acres. And the reason being is the Amish have determined that 80 acres is about the perfect size for one family to maintain, to farm, to be profitable, and to do it well. Once you get over that 80 acres, it's hard to do it as well. Once you get under 80 acres, it's not as profitable and you can't provide for your family as well. So they've found that 80 acres per family unit is a really good size because they want to do it well. So they're doing one thing extremely well. As business owners, I know that we have a lot going on. If we're running an organization, we have a lot going on. If you have multiple businesses, are you doing them in such a way that you're doing each one well? Maybe you've got like the vice president or something like that who is doing a fantastic job running it for you, and you found a unicorn. Great. I congratulate you, and everybody watching this is happy for you. That is not the case for most business owners and leaders who are out there. So your presence just steps up the game. Think about your own kids at home. You know, okay, you go clean your room, I'm going to go to the store. All right, how many kids are actually going to clean their room when mom and dad are at the store? Probably not a lot. But if you say, hey, go clean your room, I'm going to come back in 10 minutes and check. Oh, okay, because I'm going to be downstairs. Oh, okay, maybe I should get this done. Just your presence and them knowing that you're around is going to motivate them to help them do a good job. So what are some of the things that are important about your presence? Well, you are able to catch mistakes, fix mistakes, and coach mistakes in your direct reports and your staff. Now, this is not a negative thing at all. When I think about coaching, I think about sports coaches. And when you think about sports coaches, yeah, of course, there's going to be the ones that yell and scream and, get in your face and all that. But what they are always doing is they are always coaching you so that you can be better for you and you can be better for the team so that the team is better so that the team wins, right? What if we took that same approach to our businesses and our organizations and we got that in the heads of our direct reports and our staff members? Hey, I'm going to constantly be coaching you because I want you to be the best team member that you can be so that your team is the best team that it can be so that this company can be the best company that there is. Oh, so when I bring mistakes to you or things that you've not done well, it's not because I'm mad at you. It's because they didn't go well and we need to fix them so that we can be better. You can't do that if you're not around. And I know I've heard business owners talk about, well, it's not truly a good business if it doesn't run while I'm not there. Again, I'm going to go back to my statement about kids. Nobody loves your kids as much as you do. And the same thing is true for your business. No direct report or staff member is going to love your business as much as you do. They're there to earn a paycheck, and maybe they do a fantastic job, but they will do better when you are there. Now, let's say you can't physically be there. What if you're there for daily check-ins via phone or Zoom call or something like that? That's kind of a partial presence that will definitely help, but it's not the same. And let me give you another example. I was at a store doing some coaching with a CEO or store owner, and this store owner was talking to me about things that they wanted to improve and do better. One of the employees comes over, this is a new hire, comes over and says, hey, sorry to interrupt, I got a quick question. Customer has a question about X, Y, and Z. So the owner walks over, answers the question to the customer for the new hire, and then proceeds to give all of this extra information and spends 15 minutes with this customer. Now, is that great customer service? Absolutely. Was that necessary? No. The store owner's answer only took about 30 seconds. The rest of that time, the new hire had enough information to do whatever they needed to do with the customer, and they would have been providing great customer service. And so we come back together, the owner comes back, and we're back into our little meeting, and I said, so if I could give you an extra 15 minutes an hour of just your time where you could do just your work, would that be valuable to you? And the store owner was like, yes, absolutely. And I said, that's exactly what you just did to yourself. I said, think about the interaction you just had with that customer. The information that you provided that they needed actually took about, what, 30 seconds? Yes. The rest of that time, the rest of that 15 minutes, could your employee answer those questions? Well, yeah, I guess they could have. So you just took away 15 minutes of store owner time where you could have been working on something else, and that's exactly why you hired that person. You just took away their job for 15 minutes. You paid them for nothing. And I know that's kind of harsh to say, but again, here's that coaching. And I said, and I'm not mad at you. I'm not doing this because I'm upset with you, but I want you to see that you need to be focused on the tasks that only owners can do, that only CEOs can do, that only the leaders can do. You need to be focused on store owner tasks. You hire employees to do the employee tasks. Now, can you train employees to do other tasks? Sure, absolutely. But you need to be focused on only the things that the CEO can do, only the things that the store owner can do. So maybe you should be calling the distributors. Maybe you should be calling the marketing companies because the employees can't do that. Save your work for only the things that you can do and then delegate the other things out, because that's going to be the best use of their time and why you are paying them in the first place. Does that make sense? So your presence is incredibly important. It's powerful as well. Let me give you another example of why. I'm going to go back to my teaching days. Those of you who have been around me long enough, have watched some of my videos, know that I used to teach 6th grade. I was a new teacher coach. I was an assistant principal. So back in my school days, I've got a lot of love for those memories. And one of the things that I used to do when I would teach math specifically is when I would teach math, I would say, okay, I'm going to write up on the board, and all my students behind me, I said, I want your papers to look like my board, all right? So you write down exactly what I write down. And then I would write down the steps, step 1, step 2, and it might be 3 to 6 steps for a specific math problem. Then I'd say, okay, everybody, give me thumbs up when your steps look like my steps. Great, all right, we're gonna move on to the first math problem. Copy this down. I'm not gonna make you do it. I want you to copy this problem down. So they'd copy it down, all the steps. Then I would go back and point out all of the reasons I did the things that I did. So here's the reason I carried the 1. Here's the reason that I subtracted. This is what we did with the division part right here. And I would walk through each and every step. Does that make sense to everybody? See how I'm following my steps with the math problem here? And they all work out? Fantastic, kids. Here we go. Problem number 2. And I'm just moving through it, right? I'm not wasting a lot of time. What I am doing is I'm sharing the mind of the master. Think about a cooking show. You've all watched a cooking show before. And what do? You sit down with the master chef, and for 30 minutes, you are absorbed into listening to everything that they do. Here's the reason they picked this cut of meat. Here's the reason that they're using this vegetable with this dish. Here's the wine that they're going to pair with this meal. And they're explaining every detail as to why they are doing what they are doing. Now, at the end of the show, can we go out and replicate that dish? Maybe not exactly, but is it going to be pretty close? Yeah. And so that's why your presence is needed with your direct reports and your staff, because as you're walking down the hallway with one of your direct reports, you can be explaining why you did something. And that gets me to my last point. Always explain the why. Explain why you are doing the thing that you do and the reasons for the things that you do. Because if your direct reports and your staff members understand, oh, Todd's doing this thing over here because of X, Y, and Z. Oh, that makes sense. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm putting my mind into their minds. They're going to now have a similar understanding of the situation that I have. I'm also training them to think like I think, because I am walking through the problem verbally with them. Just like my students with the math problem on the board, everything is verbal. Here's what I'm doing. This is what I'm thinking. This is why I'm thinking this. And I can't do that if I'm not around. So when I go back and I think about these 3 different organizations that I've been working with, and I think about some of the problems that they've been having, The reasons they're having problems is because leadership is not there sometimes. I'll give you a little extra one here. Grumbling. Grumbling and complaining. That tends to happen when leadership is absent. And if leadership is just there, the grumbling and complaining doesn't usually happen as much. And if it does, you're there to address it. You're there to talk about it. Hey, I heard you say this in the break room. Let's talk about that for a second. Why don't you share your concerns with me, and maybe we can talk this out. Maybe I can give you some examples of why we're doing certain things. I actually had to do this at my church a couple weeks ago. I had somebody who was kind of unhappy about how we were doing something at our church, and I'm in a position of leadership at our church. And so they kind of, explained some things to me. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So I went back and I thought about it. I thought, okay, here's this, here's that. All right. So I called them on the phone a couple of days later and I said, hey, I just wanted to follow back up with you. Here are the things that you were not so happy with that we were doing at church. And I wanted to give you the reasons and rationale behind those decisions and why we made those decisions. And I hope that helps you understand how things are moving, because this person used to be in a position of leadership at that church. Oh, Todd, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that's how you guys did things now. Yes. Oh, that makes more sense. Well, thanks for explaining it to me. Now they had the why. And now they understand why we are doing the things that we're doing, why things flow the way that they flow, and actually there have been improvements made to the system that person used to work with, 30 years ago. So I hope this video has been helpful to you and added value to you. I love engaging in conversations like these. So please drop a comment below or reach out and contact me. If this is something that you're like, man, Todd, this makes a ton of sense. Where have you been all my life? Only my wife has ever said that, but you might say that too. But I like to have fun when we work. If this makes sense to you and you're like, wow, this makes a ton of sense. This is what I need in my life. This is what I do for a living. And so I want to help you increase your level of leadership. I want to make you a better leader so that you're better, so that your direct reports are better, so that you're less stressed when you get home, and so that, gosh, your spouse and your kids like you a little bit more too, because you're doing a better job. Because some of this bleeds over into that stuff as well. So reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation and see if we are a good fit to work together, because obviously sometimes we're not. And I'll be straight up with you, like, nope, that's not something I think I should jump into. That's not something I think I could handle. Or, you know what, I don't think my approach is going to work well with what you have going on. But there are other people where it's like, man, that is rock solid. Yeah, that's exactly. And so those are the clients that I usually work well with, and we have great rapport. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And if I could be of any help to you, or if I've added any value to your life in your leadership, please drop me a comment below, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. Thank you. We'll see you next time.